Today I'm going to be reacting slash responding to autistic people respond to assumptions about them. I myself have the autism. So let's see what these three people have to say. Let's get into it.
The politically correct phrase.
You could call autistic
Let's go
people.
back.
The politically correct phrase.
Assumption people with autism is the politically correct phase.
You could call autistic people with autism or neurodivergent, but sometimes I know neurotypicals like to insult other neurotypicals by calling them autistic, but you can call me that, like, I don't care.
I think the best thing to do is to
I personally don't care, and I know my little brother who's also autistic. Like we just don't care. Um, People with autism. If I mean, like, say you're in a room with a bunch of people, sure you can say people with autism. I guess like defining someone as autistic, it's more of a preference. I personally like I'll straight up be like, I got the tisms, my dude. Like I borderline like kind of don't personally care. However, there are people that do. And if they care about that, then that's up to them.
just ask the person.
Yeah.
What I probably don't, not probably, I don't mind being called an autistic person. But if someone
Ah,
was like, please call me as a person with autism, then respect that. I think it's all just communication.
I feel like asking the person, and because sometimes there's just not the awareness, so it's sometimes, at least I hope when people don't do it in a certain way, it's with malintent. I feel like
yeah, true. Like a lot of times people will be like, "You got autism, bro." Like I have had non-neurodivergent people literally insult me by saying I'm autistic. And then my response is usually, "Yeah, I am." And so what? So what I am. You want to fight? Like so I guess it's really like the intent when someone says like you got autism. Uh it's really all about intent and if that person's comfortable with it.
it's about asking and with respect for the label that if you did it incorrectly, checking
Exactly.
that it's correct, or at least the way the person wants to be addressed.
Okay, this is from Dreamy Tea Party Princess. A lot of people see autism as a superpower. They only see our creative
Uh,
sides and not the meltdowns or sensory issues.
I
oh my god. If if I had words to describe how much I just hate when people say autism is my superpower is what? My superpower is that I will get fixated on something to the point where it will physically upset me if I can't complete that thing or do the thing I want. I get an idea in my head where I gotta move the furniture around. I'm there 2 a.m. when it hits me and I'm literally putting socks on furniture so it doesn't make noise. Like my superpower is my teeth can't touch so I have a hard time chewing food. Like the superpower is what? I'm not good at math. I don't have a photogenic memory. I can't play instruments. Where's my power? Like, where's the power?
I haven't checked if I was able to climb on walls or anything or
Exactly.
stoop on. If that's what autism gave me, then oof, please give
Be
me
more
more. No,
exciting if
like
autism
it's just
gave us that.
not
And
at
if we
all.
were in My Hero Academia, that's a super.
I was about to talk about that, and I'm just like my quirk, autism, and I'm just
I'd be so
I'm just
upset.
like
Thinks differently, like all the
I'd
explanations
be
under
so
it's
it.
like
upset if I was in
I
that
wanted
world and
super
they gave me
speed. Like
autism.
when I get this, no, but all honesty, I think it's just how you use how you look at autism yourself, and how you expand on it.
I'd say autistics have superpowers, but there's a catch. That makes superpowers
Huh,
not even worth it anymore.
yeah,
What would be the
yes.
catch in your opinion?
Traumatic experience.
Oh, you can fly, But you have a supervillain backstory apparently.
For example, my memory goes back to 2, and my memory is super powerful. But that means I also remember all the worst things I don't want to remember.
I'm the opposite. Can't
Sometimes
remember
those
anything.
things just won't go away. I feel like it's the best thing to move, the best thing to do in those situations to move forward and not moving on, because sometimes just neurotypicals or divergence just can't do that.
Yeah, I would say like I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of things that people with autism who deal with autism gain. For me, when I went to getting into college, I wrote one of my essays and I called, weirdly again, like autism as a gift, because it gave me a really hard work ethic. I had to work harder to get to where I am today with how my brain just functions,
Well,
or
that's nice
how I
that she
learn
sees
and
it that
understand
way.
things. And in that sense, I guess that gave me that kind of superpower, if you want to call work ethic a superpower, and not just from autism, but sometimes it does give you superpowers because you become a product of
Yeah.
someone who has gone through a lot, or has
I don't think it gave me
gone through and
superpowers. It
handling
gave me
different
problems,
situations
bro.
that maybe some other people
It
don't.
gave me the
Amanda
need for
Borhart
therapy.
1000 says it's obvious that someone has autism and it's impossible that someone with normal behavior could be autistic.
Excusez-moi. Excusez-moi. Okay, let's just get down to the business. What in the world do they think normal behavior is? Literally? Like, what do they think normal behavior is? Like, do they think that it's like, I, I don't even know. See, the problem is like, you could ask me and be like, normal behavior, and it's like, I have not experienced in my life being normal, so how would I know? How would I know what it's like? I think I skipped a question. No, I didn't. I didn't skip a question. Sorry, got distracted.
Black and white statement.
Yeah.
That's saying that you're either like so over here or you're so over here. I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes I can
It's such a
feel
scale.
very, very like talkative, and on the other hand, other times I don't want to speak to anyone or anything.
Me.
I wish people could tell that I'm autistic so they would treat me better.
I thought about that, and I don't know how to answer you. When people say you don't look autistic, or
Exactly.
yeah, I can tell you autistic.
So basically, whenever I got out of high school, my teacher was like, my mom had a my teacher reached out to me to review and like hype up the community college in my province. And my mom was like, she answered the phone because they only had my home phone. And my mom was like, well, Lexi, like, college didn't work out with her. Like, she was diagnosed with like autism and stuff, and she can't even like work due to autism mixed with agoraphobia and anxiety. Like, I don't think she's the best person to be like hyping up this college. Um, and literally, like, the reaction was, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell she was autistic. I had no idea. She doesn't look autistic. Like, bruh, what do you want? What does it look like? Like, to people, I don't understand. Like, when you look at this group of people, the general bias is that they, in the middle, like, would be on the scale of what normal people would consider the stereotype, I guess, which is like the colored glove, the colored hair, just that's like what the stereotype would be. And then you have her, who's very more well put, like more normal presenting when it comes to like how, I guess, the normal people dress and go out and this stuff. So if you have someone like them who walks out in public and like goes on about anime and stuff, that's what they like. That's the type of people that like go on TikTok and they're like, huh, that person's autistic, because that's like the joke. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, like absolutely killer vibes, but there's so many different levels, and people will just be like, they'll pick and choose what they think looks autistic.
Autistic. I don't know. Is that an insult? Is that a compliment? Thank you. Thank you for telling me that I don't look autistic.
It's so difficult because it's, yes, sometimes you do need the help, and sometimes it's great not to get the assumption when it doesn't appear physically or by the behavior that you don't have
I
autism, but
feel
it's
like if you
also
have
dangerous because
autism,
again, you don't
it's a
know
little
what the
easier to
person's
pick
gone
out
through and
people in a crowd who
what they're
have
dealing with or what
autism with
they're
you.
thinking. When it's more with like how you think, how you behave, and
Yeah.
it gets tricky when someone
Yeah,
says stuff
true.
like that where it's when you can't see it, it's difficult.
People should stop self-diagnosing through TikTok.
I don't think you can easily.
Oh my god, yeah, no. Like, I got diagnosed in grade 3, but it was, like, I'm old now, so I'm 24, so back in grade 3, like, the autism diagnosis that they were giving was, like, fresh. So they said I would grow out of it because at the time there wasn't enough research to learn that you're born with autism. You don't develop it. So it's so it was like it was there diagnosed, but it wasn't. But obviously my parents took it as like, oh yeah, she's most likely autistic. And then whenever my little brother got like formally diagnosed years later, my mom was filling out all the paperwork and stuff, and she's like, Lexi, like, you like kind of got this. You have so many things checking off more than your little brother. And I was like, well, I was diagnosed, remember? And she's like, oh my god, you're right. And then whenever I went to college and like the whole fallout, I then got diagnosed again. And these like TikToks that pop up, they seem to get ADHD and autism mixed up a lot. Like they have the TikToks can't seem to like differentiate between ADHD and autism.
You just self-diagnose yourself on TikTok and call it a day. And I don't think that's what
Yeah.
people are doing. I don't think autism is a trend. I don't think autism is trending. I think people are being more vocal about the fact that they have autism. And the reason why self-diagnosis and autism is on the rise is because the health system is really screwed up.
He's right.
Like
He's
it's
right.
really
A lot of
hard
people have
for
to
someone to be able to
self-diagnose
just
and bring it up to their
easily
doctor just to
get a
like get it
diagnosis, and
rolling.
even after that, some people get false diagnosis. Some people can be labeled as autistic when they're not, or in the
True.
other way, you're labeled a completely different disability.
It's true. There are a lot of people with ADHD that get diagnosed with autism. Like there is a mass amount of people, or there's autistic people that will get diagnosed with ADHD. A lot, like say you don't have like an autism center and you just go to your regular mental health programs and you just see like a normal psychologist or psychiatrist that hasn't been trained in especially in autistic diagnosis, a lot of the time you will get um, they'll diagnose you with just general sensory processing disorder, which falls under the scale of autism, and you might even get like just straight up ADHD or ADD. It's really hard, and that's why a lot of people like the healthcare system's really messed up.
As opposed to autism or what it really is.
For me, I think if you're autistic, you should seek professional help. I mean, it took 3 therapy sessions for someone to discover that I was autistic, and help is out there. I don't think you should do it alone.
But it is very expensive though.
Yeah.
And
True,
it's
if
really
you're
it's
American, it's expensive, and even in Canada, where the land of the free healthcare, it still costs you money 99% of the time to get a diagnosis, unless you go through like social worker after social worker. Getting an autism diagnosis is probably, if you don't catch it early, it's a very, very difficult process.
Yeah.
it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad to believe that like you have to spend thousands of dollars just for
Yeah.
someone to tell you, yeah, you're right, you have autism, give me money. That's really not.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as that.
Autistic children should have aides with them at all times. what's a different word for
have AIDS.
monitor? I
The
don't want to
comment
say.
never leaves
I don't
me.
want to say it like that. I
Oh
want to
my
say
God.
Okay, let me
Professional
let
No,
me
it's fine, it's
assistant.
fine.
assistance. Let me say
They're
it again.
EAs.
One more
No,
time.
I'm gonna say
They're like
I think
No,
AIDS is funnier.
educational
Let me get it in. Let me get it in, y'all.
assistants.
Autistic children need personal assistance with them at all times during school.
Okay, this one it's measuring degrees. So I went through elementary school, struggled really hard. Probably could have used one then. And then middle school, I was better, but socially not to par. I failed grade 1 due to like lack of social skills. That was like whenever they're like, maybe we should like get her on this thing. Luckily, grade 3, I had this one teacher who was like, "Yo, your kid, your kid got problems, my dude. Let's get them diagnosed." So that's what really helped push it. However, like my little brother had one, but it's honestly it's all very level, like so many levels of autism. Like, no. If you are to generalize autistic children, no. No, 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 because there's high functioning, low functioning. It it depends on what the parents consent to. Like, no. The answer is just no. Not all autistic children need personal assistance. There are some that need assistance sometimes, there are some that don't even need assistance. They just need help coping with coping mechanisms. Like there's so many layers.
Think that it really depends on the autistic person.
Exactly. What I just said.
I know you were
They
talking about how
understand.
you had IEP and like it really helped you a bit growing up.
Yes, individualized education plan. This this is so I had one of those in elementary school and half of middle school because I was diagnosed professionally with learning disabilities that I don't even know the names of. It's in the paper somewhere. Um, and these can make or break your child's education, honestly.
Up. But like with me, on the other hand, I was one of those people that actively resented wanting IEP or AIDS in this case because like I don't need help. I can get to where I want to be by myself. But
Yeah, there are lots of people
so it's
who
really a
felt
case
like
by
that. I
case
felt like
basis
that.
on who the person is.
Yes, so I was diagnosed when I was 13. So there was a me before AIDS and a me after AIDS. And so before I had the assistants following me around the school, my disability was invisible. After the assistants
Yeah,
started
that's
following me
another
around the school,
problem. Like you will if you have a educational assistant, you definitely will get bullied. A lot of time, especially in high school. When I was in high school, I was not on any learning plans at all. I became very smart. Socially very still like delayed, but I became more smart, I guess you could say. And throughout this like educational process of the school, there would be the children with educational assistance. And these not all of most of them weren't autistic to be honest. Most people with autism that I knew that were professionally diagnosed with like Asperger's specifically, which isn't a valid diagnosis anymore. It's changed to just ASD, like autistic generalized. But they were specifically diagnosed with Asperger's. They did have temporarily, like, say there's an EA for a slightly more disabled child with like physical disabilities or like very delayed mental disabilities, these children would be separated completely, but the people with Asperger's would be allowed to ask for help, and they did have a learning plan. The people who were on the learning plan were allowed to be in the same classes. I'm saying the word allowed because 99% of the children with personalized educators were taken out of class and separated completely, absolutely isolating them. And that's why if you had any semblance of high functioning, like a higher functioning, you normally do not get an EA. Mind you, I am from a small town, so it's completely
Well,
different.
my
in
disability
bigger
turned
cities.
visible, and so I think that was a problem.
It's like having a neon sign that just
Oh
says,
yeah,
"Hey, look
no,
at me, I'm
Something's
autistic."
TAs are
different.
like
Why
neon
are
signs.
these
They're the biggest
guards
things.
following this woman around all the time? She must be special needs.
And it's frustrating because it brings on the tag of we're not capable. Because we are. It's maybe we need, there's not, we don't have AIDS right now. Like, we don't need someone's help every single step of the way. Maybe
It's true.
on
There are
step
people
one,
who are street
or,
smart, people who are education
but
smart.
not the whole way.
Women can't be autistic.
Oh, the reason why this comes about is because when autism was like quote unquote discovered, it was based on white men, like white boys. So the general diagnosis kind of falls into the criteria specifically for white men. So when autism was like being explored, they discovered like a woman could have it. They literally would like sweep autism under the rug for specifically women autistics because they literally were like, she's just dramatic. Like, oh my god, she's dramatic. That's literally a whole thing. Like, ugh.
And it's interesting. The schools saw me as different, and they saw that as a woman, so she must have ADD. They were pushing ADD on everyone. Well,
Yeah.
they kept testing me and testing me and testing me, kept coming out negative and negative, and
Exactly
I
what
think
I said
since I was a
earlier.
woman, it was hard for me to get the autism diagnosis, and so that's why it was late for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
it's, again, like with the TikTok, like, it's great to bring awareness. And I feel like we see all this media portraying autism, and it's always boys and men.
Yeah.
And there's this assumption. And it's really unfortunate because girls can have autism too. And also nowadays, where we're kind of progressing in the queer community, it's like also people who aren't boys or girls can have autism too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most queer or
True.
trans people are autistic.
It's yours.
No, me. I saw like this research that proves that this is like slightly correct. It's because we think we and I like most autistic people think a little bit more broadly in the world of like color. Like sometimes we're super black and white, and other times we're curious and we want to understand things, so we explore things a little more. It's like there's like scientific research that proves this, but it's very
This one
complicated.
is for Richie.
I had this conversation multiple times about why a lot of autistic people come out as trans and non-binary, because I started thinking about why some people transition that way and why they go into becoming trans and being non-binary, being their true selves. And I started realizing that because we have such social issues, or at least with me, because we have such social issues and we don't like to conform with society and think how society thinks, basically everything that we do is a non-factor in society. And it's all about how we feel and who we are. So with
True.
me,
Whenever you have autism, you have to be super like in control and think about your feelings. Like you're constantly thinking about your feelings. So if you want to so you're constantly like trying to cope with society, and a lot of times being yourself is the best way to cope in today's world.
I knew I wasn't a girl, but I hated being labeled as a guy. And non-binary just seemed to fit the most because it made me feel like I can be myself and my true self is the only thing that matters.
They
As
understand.
in my gender, what I wear, who I am, should not matter. All that matters is my character, my personality. And non-binary, me being non-binary has made me the happiest I have ever been. Who knows? Maybe
That's good.
maybe I'm actually not non-binary and I'm gonna transition to a different gender. That's the human nature. But
See, keeping an
I
open
feel
mind
like
like
people
that is also
a lot of
very
autistic
good.
people transition because they think about themselves first and foremost. And
Hmm.
this is what I think of myself. I am non-binary, and I'm pretty happy about it.
Being autistic automatically makes someone socially inept.
Oh, there's so many levels.
Pretty bad socially.
Not automatically. Yeah, I get socially inept sometimes, but when someone starts talking about what I do, I can go on for days and talk about
True.
things.
It's almost like similar to the other symptoms. It's something that can it's like it says sometimes it's an unfair assumption because it's something that you could always work on. Like yeah, maybe I do feel like I have a harder time developing relationships, developing friendships, and then
Yes.
especially like how do I maintain my socialism in a work environment when there's certain etiquette in place. And it is harder. I feel like I do have to think about that stuff
Yeah, I have
sometimes,
to
and
think
I
about
don't
what I say before
mean
I
to
say
be
it
offensive,
constantly.
but I feel like it is fair to say that it sometimes is harder, but I feel like we could still carry ourselves in society, and
Yeah,
There's levels. It
It's
all
just maybe
depends on
harder.
who it is.
Autism is just being a little bit quirky.
just being a little quirky,
just a bit.
just a
It's
bit.
totally
And
not.
It's this. It's just.
It's not like the brain wires are coiled up or anything. I mean, that's not what autism is. Yeah, so I have lots of quirks, but autism is not one big quirk. So
Yeah,
I have
true.
a few quirks. So, for example, what do? I bunny hop. I walk like a dog. I make animal noises all the time. I like to keep my arms like this because it's comfortable. And I embarrass my mommy all the time.
I do like to sometimes like have something to do with my fingers when it's like just I don't know if it's just like I need something to do with my fingers. It's like I guess it's like something just the brain and then just goes that and then it's like well yeah I'm quirky but is there anything wrong with that?
Everybody has little quirks. Autism or not, everybody has little quirks.
I feel like non-autistic people also have quirks. It's not.
True.
I mean maybe autistic people.
Here's
There's
my
a
quirks.
higher I don't know higher percentage autism people have quirks but it's like there's nothing wrong with a quirk.
All people with autism face sensory issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least for me. I don't know about anyone else, but
With me, I do feel sensory issues. Shockingly, it's not just loud noises. It's constant loud noises. But it's most
have
of my
lots.
sensory issues come from taste and touch.
I don't have a taste one, but I do have a texture one. Like for like textures in my mouth, like just plain mashed potatoes give me like an ick. Cooked broccoli gives me like an ick. So it all depends. Like, dude, I couldn't even wear snow pants because the feeling and the sound of them rubbing makes my skin crawl. So it's really.
Scares
It all
the ever loving
depends.
shit out of me.
this
I-
This is a long answer.
I mean
Yeah.
I feel like this is why they're in horror films but
Yeah.
I cannot stand the
Like,
This question is. I feel like we all agree. They're just talking about their personal sensory issues, so I'm just gonna skip ahead.
Autistic people lack empathy.
It's a scale. I personally have been told I do. I lack empathy towards people I don't have close connections with. And I have more empathy for animals than people, but it's like it's it's scaled.
can you
do
explain
they
to me
think?
then, like,
Do they think we're psychopaths? Like,
well, tell me, why did I pass out watching a turtle surgery? Because I wasn't empathetic or anything? For people and animals, like if I see someone hurting, I feel like I could feel their pain almost. Yeah, I do have extra empathy for animals. They have a special place in my heart.
animals are nice.
Yeah, I think more so than people, but I'm empathetic towards both.
I feel like our emotions are more in like interior. Like I feel like I do feel very deeply. I go through the same emotions as everyone else. Maybe I don't show it like outwardly all the time,
Exactly
but
how I feel.
I do feel it.
I do want to say that I'm a person who's very much an open book. Like I rarely, if at all, hide anything. That being said, if you're not going to ask me the question, you will never know the answer. I will never just bring something up out of nowhere. That's why I love people asking questions to me because it makes me feel like they care
I do love when people. I'm literally doing this because I love answering questions.
a lot about my stuff.
Autistic people have a hard time dating.
Yes, I am married, bless, but there are so many hurdles we had to go through to understand each other and it was a very long process, and it was difficult, but I just got lucky.
I feel like dating is hard for anyone.
Yeah.
But that is also true. There's just so many
Yeah,
levels of
and
dating.
I feel like for me it's so much harder when I have a harder time showing my emotions even though I still feel them. It's tough. And yeah, I mean I would love to be in a romantic relationship at one point, but yeah, it's just difficult and it's a very hard environment whether you're autistic or not. And I feel like with autism it almost makes it a little harder when you're trying to put your emotions out there, and it's like there's very few
True.
people I do that with or I communicate that with.
Right.
My relationships last a very long time, and that's because I can't seem to break off when I should.
Oh God, tell me about
I
it.
have separation issues.
It's hard.
With me, it was the
I was literally diagnosed with dependency issues as a part of my autism, that I have I get so attached to people that I have such a hard time letting them go, so I completely understand this.
with me it was a complete. With me, it was a completely different boat because like it's really hard for me to keep a long-term relationship. And before my current partner, the previous long-term relationship I had was very toxic and abusive. Not just with her, but on both of us. And it's it was emotional. Relationships of any kind, dating included, is just a lot harder for an autistic person.
So, A Good Waste of Time says all autistic people are innocent, holier than thou, pure beings with no sexual desires or any idea of what sex even is.
I only look that way.
I love that for her.
Bad bitches.
Let's just say
I took biology. I mean,
I saw a penis in a health book once. No, I'm kidding. No, but like, let's just say I've been around. I've done things.
just because I have autism doesn't mean I don't
You're talking
know
about. You're talking about.
Yeah, that's because the stereotype is that all autistic people are asexual, and there are autistic people who are asexual, and there are people that are not.
Boys and girls even.
Ooh, scandalous.
Oh wow! Oh my gosh! Oof. I don't think.
I feel like a lot of assumptions are coming from like the assumption that like people are autistic just don't understand these things or just can't think on their own or like.
I feel like I have
something like that.
neurotypical. I feel like I have a neurotypical with a magnifying glass over my face, being like, "What do you do?"
Everyone loves Karina says, I assume people with autism struggle with tone.
I can't understand
Yeah.
sarcasm for the life of me. How I execute sarcasm.
Oh, this one's hard. It all depends on the person. If I'm able to tell if they're being sarcastic or not. With text, it's very hard for me to tell if someone's being sarcastic. In person, it's okay. Sometimes I say things sarcastically and people have the tone wrong. So even the tone that comes from me, myself, can sound different than what I am thinking in my head. So personally for me, I do.
Is I am
But
like completely
it's
dramatic
different
in it.
levels.
Like for example, when someone gets me, let's say a can of soup for Christmas, I'm like, oh, thanks. Like I would really like exaggerate the sarcasm. Because when someone's being sarcastic but they're talking the same way they do, I'm like, what are you talking about?
I know it goes back to the socialism manners and
Yeah.
trying to like interpret how the other person's trying to communicate to me. I feel like I'm better when I'm talking with people I know more or I've gotten to know more.
Yeah.
But it is something I'm always working on, trying to like understand the intonation or the tone that the person's trying to
Exactly.
set, whether
And so
it's
I always think that people are
one thing or
angry.
the other. Because I mean, it's one thing for sarcasm, but then it's another when it's a different environment and it's like trying to interpret that.
Yeah,
And
of
just
course,
different
of
kinds of
course.
scenarios, whether it's like dating or whether it's with friends and trying to not offend anyone or just try to understand.
Vaccines cause autism.
Autism existed before vaccines. You can fact check me. Michelangelo had supposedly had autism.
So
had
did
autism?
Albert
Yeah.
Albert Einstein, wasn't he rumored to have
Yes.
autism too?
Isaac Newton,
I
did
wouldn't
they
be
have
surprised.
vaccines? I don't think so.
Go get like I remember saying in the old video, like I may be autistic, but at least I'm not dying. Which I still stand by that. I'd rather be autistic than die. Go get your vaccines. Don't listen to the naysayers. They'll
True.
listen to the anti-vaxxers who want to control every ounce of their child's life as if they won't leave their parents when they turn 18. If vaccines do cause autism, which they don't, then give me more of that, because
I'd rather have autism than die.
yeah. Let me go.
A big joke I always make, like when the COVID vaccines came out, is I was like, yo, boys, let me go get my upgrades. Like my autism upgrades.
Into my next form, apparently.
People are autistic because of childhood trauma.
No, but I think it causes childhood trauma.
That's not as dumb as the vaccine one, but that's still pretty.
It's, yeah, because the core of it is from you, not necessarily the events that happen to
Yeah.
you.
I was punched so hard that I now have autism. That's apparently what that apparently is what it's telling me.
They're acting
I
like
mean,
it's shaken
to be
baby
fair,
syndrome,
I
but
do
it's
remember
not.
a story where my sister told me that she dropped me going down the stairs when I was like 2 years old, and she thought for a while that I got autistic because of that. And there was a time where I was just an awful person, so I would just egg her on. Like, I would just be like, yep, I'm like this because of you. But, like, no, it was all it was all fun. I was joking. But, like, us having autism, like, childhood trauma does not cause autism. It's people's misunderstanding of autism that would cause my childhood trauma.
Masking is a useful skill for autistic people.
I'm gonna try and mask right now.
Sigh.
It's,
Doing it.
we have,
I feel like it's a survival mechanism.
yeah, like, we kind of have no choice.
We learn that like someone doesn't react well to me, like not looking someone in the eye, or just not understanding a specific etiquette that maybe I just don't know, or I'm like my brain isn't processing like everyone else, and then so then I know my survival like your brain kicks in and it's like I need to do this so I can survive, or I can get through the next conversation.
If I didn't mask,
Sometimes though, it can really bite you because so then you have phases where you're so good at masking that you're able to do everything that people assumed you couldn't, and then as soon as your mask gets absolutely worn out and you no longer can hold it and you just have no choice but to let go, people then act disappointed that you aren't you wearing the mask. Like people get really upset that you're not you wearing the mask.
I wouldn't be able to have a job. Because I'm a barista. I work as a barista. That takes so much out of me at the end of the day. Not even because of the customers, but just overall trying to pretend that I don't have something.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
If I want to get taken seriously at work, because I'm in a very high position, I have to act normal. But deep down, I'm not. And so when I get home, I just start running around like a dog on all fours and.
Autistic people should disclose their autism when applying for jobs.
Man, one job discriminated against me after I disclosed, so I'll never do it again.
It's like legally they're not supposed to.
No,
And
can I
How-
get some money out of them?
The rate of an autistic person getting hired is so low the moment you disclose you have autism, and legally you don't have to, but sometimes you have no choice but to disclose it, but it always bites you in the butt.
So
But
now-
at the same time, it's like no one's really. It's hard to like understand like what subconsciously people putting that label on you.
Jasmine, are you at a place that's more accommodative now?
Yeah, my entire work currently, they all know that I'm autistic because they did a documentary filming at my work for autism, so they all know. And so I let my quirks show once in a while, and everyone's accepting of it, and I'm very happy. I'm a civil engineer, and my coworkers are civil engineers as well, and they're very high up in their field, and yeah, they totally accept me and treat me like a queen.
Lucky.
As you
Yeah.
should.
I want to be treated. I want to be treated like a queen. What are the rules in cursing? Like, what are the rules in cursing?
Curse as much as you want.
Oh, okay. I wear autism like a badge of honor. Like I put it on all job applications. I put it everywhere. It is on my bios. That is something because
That's really nice
only
that they
it's
feel
going
that way about
like
it.
people are gonna know no matter what I do. yeah, I'll wear it like a badge of honor because there's no point in hiding it.
And because you don't want a situation like Jasmine where you don't disclose it, you get the job, and then all of a sudden it's an issue, even
Yeah.
though it shouldn't be
Gamer.
because it's about
That's
how you.
literally has happened to me where I didn't disclose it right away and then it became an issue whenever I was like, okay, well I'm not understanding this because of this. And then you have to play the I'm autistic card and then it's like a whole thing and it's so annoying.
Handle the job, and then it's.
Sorry.
So you go for it.
I almost wondered if I didn't disclose if they would have thought I was neurotypical the entire time.
And I wouldn't want to work for an employer who doesn't respect who I am and how I think and how I contribute. I can contribute
Yeah.
because I have autism, but I can contribute. I've held a good amount of jobs. I'm a good worker. I mean, I am very fortunate to not be in a position where like I've had a job where I wasn't accommodated or accepted for having autism. But yeah, I've been very fortunate. I hope never to work somewhere where they don't accept that, because I hope we live in a world where you just accept it, and because autistic people are very good workers. We think differently, and sometimes that's one of our best attributes for contributing to a job.
There's an assumption going around that autistic people are huge fans of AnthonyPadilla.
Who? I'm sorry. Who's Anthony Padilla?
Never heard of him.
Yeah.
That was great. That was a great video. I definitely feel like as a person with autism that can't find work because of rural areas and not enough accommodations based on my needs and all that, and like some physical attributes with that included, I definitely feel like everybody's life is different. These three are great, and I loved their answers, and all their answers were great. And I hope this is a long video, but I hope that like I don't know, you guys got some insight on some autism stuff. So thanks for watching. Bye.